in the military with summary channel. In this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have lots of very interesting updates, so let's start. Ukraine continues bombing and attacking the territory of the Russian Federation using hundreds of drones. This Ukraine's attack started in the evening of the 14th of February of 2026, and as we can see, this attack has going on for more than 48 hours. And during the first wave of attack, the Ukrainians were attacking the southern regions of the Russian Federation, and the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation stated that during this attack, the Russians managed to bring down more than 150 drones. As soon as this attack finished, the Ukrainians began attacking in the direction of the city of Moscow, and this picture was published by pro-Ukrainian sources. During these attacks, the Ukrainians were also using hundreds of drones, but the Ukrainians didn't stop during the 15th of February of 2026, and they continued attacking the territory of the Russian Federation during the night between the 15th and the 16th of February of 2026, and this map was published this morning on the 16th of February. So as you can see, the Ukrainians were using dozens of roads. They were trying to attack once again the southern regions of Russia in the direction of the city of Moscow, and the Ukrainians were attacking in the direction of the city by the name of Cheboksary. And as a result of this attack, several objects of energy infrastructure of Russia were damaged significantly. During the night, we received a report that Ukrainians attacked the 750 substation in the area of the settlement by the name of Novobratska. So in this video, we can see the moments of when Ukrainians were attacking this substation, and most likely we can see the consequences of this attack. Later, the governor or the mayor of the city of Bryansk stated that there are problems with energy. Bryansk region governor Alexander Bogomaz, a massive Ukrainian drone attack on our region has been ongoing for over 12 hours as a result of the Ukrainian armored force strike on energy infrastructure in Bryansk region. Heat and electricity are out of in 5 municipalities and the part of the city of Bryansk. Another area that was attacked by Ukrainians is the city of Belgorod. As for this situation, the Ukrainians were also attacking objects of energy infrastructure. Overnight, Ukraine attacked energy infrastructure in Belgorod city with HIMARS missiles. Multiple rockets impacted the Belgorod thermal power plant, resulting in power outages and significant damage to the facility. During the nights, we received lots of videos where we could see the strikes and the consequences of this attack. Belgorod and Belgorod district were subjected to massive shelling by the Ukrainian armored forces. Belgorod region governor Vyacheslav Gladkov reported. According to preliminary information, there are no casualties. Another interesting situation, the Ukrainians were trying to get the city of Moscow, and the mayor of the city of Moscow stated that on the approach to the Moscow today, 18 Ukrainian drones have already been shot down. So as of the morning of the 16th of February of 2026, we still haven't received the final numbers about the drones that the Ukrainians were using to attack the city of Moscow. Another important road to attack is this one. According to this let's say picture, according to information from the open source, the Ukrainians were also trying to attack the city of Cheboksary. So this is a very important industrial city of the Russian Federation because there are lots of plants, lots of facilities that Russians use to build and to create some parts for oil refineries. I would like to remind you that since the beginning of the special military operation, the Ukrainians have dealt significant damage to oil refineries of the Russian Federation, but we see that the Russians are able to repair these oil refineries very fast. So that is why the Ukrainians are shifting their focus to the industrial facilities that produce parts and equipment for these oil refineries. It seems that this is the new approach of the armed forces of Ukraine. At the same time, we continue receiving reports that the Russians are preparing and continues its preparations for the next combined missile and drone attack on Ukraine. At least three Tu-95 MS strategic bombers redeployed from Ukrainka Air Base in the Far East to Olenyi Air Base, Murmansk Oblast. There are also 4 Tu-95s at Engels 2 base, at least 2 of which are equipped with missiles. There remains a threat in place for the usage of of Iskander and ballistic missiles. So the sources are saying that most likely within the next 36 hours, the Russians will launch a massive missile and drone combined attack through the entire territory of Ukraine, and most likely Russians will attack the city of Kiev and the region and the Kiev region. Today we received reports that there is a very difficult situation in the city of Kiev. The temperature fell down once again. It's very cold. Once again, frost returned to the city of Kiev. And most likely the Russians will use this situation to attack objects of energy infrastructure through the region. At the same time, we received a report that during the previous night, the Russians used several missiles to attack objects of energy infrastructure in the northern parts of Ukraine. The sources reported that Russians used at least 4 hypersonic missiles, Tsirkon hypersonic missiles, to attack the Kiev 750 kV electrical substation, which is located to the west of the city of Kiev. This substation connects the city of Kiev itself with the Rovne nuclear power station. Another substation was attacked in the area of the city by the name of Konotop. This time we are talking about Konotop 330 electrical substation near the city. So the Russians are trying to cut and to split the entire energy infrastructure of Ukraine into several pieces by all these attacks. And this is something like a preparation before something bigger. At the same time, we received the report that Ukraine's delegation have already let's say, started their movement towards the Geneva, the city of Geneva. I would like to remind you that during the 17th and the 18th of February of 2026, a trilateral meeting between Russia and Ukraine and the United States of America is going to happen there, and the Ukrainians have already, let's say, left the city of Kiev in this direction.
Goddag. Goddag. Hvad kan jeg hjælpe med? Jeg vil høre om
Now let's discuss the situation on the ground. During the previous 12 hours, we received lots of very interesting changes. And first, let's talk about the Zaporozhye direction where the Ukrainians continue their counter-offensive operation. As for the previous 12 hours, as for the previous night, we haven't received anything that can confirm or that can provide us additional updates about the situation on the ground and about additional progress on the ground, more precisely from the Ukrainian side. At the same time, we received a very interesting article published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and according to this article, the Russians improved their positions, or the Russians infiltrated in the southwestern direction from the city of Galyai-Pole by taking or by infiltrating the territory along the railways to the south of the settlement of Zaliznichna. These are the changes on the ground according to pro-Ukrainian sources. Another important video was published from the settlement of Pokrovska. In this video, we can see the consequences of Russia's attacks that took place during the previous days. This is a very important settlement because this settlement is located in the area of the settlement of Pokrovske, and the Ukrainians use this territory to accumulate for accumulation purposes. They accumulate their forces before moving further in the southern direction with the purpose to counterattack Russians. So in this video we can see the consequences of attacks that were carried out by Russians during the previous days. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Dnipropetrovsk direction. During the previous 12 hours, small changes were also recorded. This information was provided by pro-Ukrainian sources. We discussed the situation in the previous videos. The Russians intensified their activities in the area of the city of Dnipropetrovsk region. During the previous days, the Russians began offensive operation in the area of Gavrilovka. Furthermore, during the same period of time, the Russians began offensive operation in the area between the settlements of Molodetska and Novomikhailivka. It seems that the Russians are trying to outflank positions of the armored forces of Ukraine in the area of Novopavlovka from the north. Now let's move further and let's talk about the city of Kostiantynivka, because probably the most important updates are coming from this area. So these are the changes on the ground between the dates. This is the end of the 14th of February of 2026. This is the end of the 15th of February, and this is the situation at the beginning of the 16th of February of 2026. As you can see, according to information we have, the Russians during the previous days managed to improve their positions significantly. More precisely, the Russians broke through Ukraine's defense in the southwestern part of the city of Kostiantynivka and answered the city itself from the southwest, which is a very important piece of news. We came to this conclusion based on the video published by pro-Ukrainian sources, where we can see how Ukrainians were attacking Russians through the territory of the city of Kostiantynivka. We can see a lot of episodes how Ukrainians were attacking different buildings, constructions through the city, and at least 3 episodes were geolocated. One of the attacks took place right exactly, 2 of the attacks took place right exactly in this area, and the 2 more attacks took place, as you can see, in the southwestern part of the settlement. Based on this video, we came to conclusion that Russians answered the city itself, and that currently the Russians most likely are tasked and focused to unite these 2 footholds in the area of the southern part of Ilinka and in the area of the southwestern part of the city of Kostiantynivka. The Russians will try to expand their positions in this area with the purpose to create a very strong foothold that can be used later to continue offensive operation deeper in the northern direction.
Hos os får du både A-kasse og lønsikring til Danmarks billigste pris, som giver dig op imod 7.500 kroner.
Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Slaviansk direction. We have changes. According to information we have, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Russians approached the settlement of Riznikovka from the north. It seems that in coming days, the Riznikovka fortified area will collapse, and most likely Russians will establish complete control over the territory. I would like to remind you that yesterday the commander-in-chief of the armed force of the Russian Federation, Valery Gerasimov, stated that the battle for the settlement of Riznikovka is coming to its end. So this is a very powerful fortified area that was created by the Ukrainians, and we see that the Russians are approaching the final square kilometers of this fortified territory. Another important update is that according to pro-Russian sources from the 20th and the 25th armies, the Russians are approaching the settlements of Stary Karavan and Brusovka. So the Russians decided not to answer the city of Liman itself and not to fight for the city, from inside of the city. The Russians are trying to outflank the city from the south and from the southeast, and the sources reported that the Russians are about to begin the battle for these 2 villages, which are located along the river of Seversky Donets, which means that first the Russians are tasked to force Ukrainians to fall back from this side of the river. The Russians are tasked to establish complete control over these 2 villages, Brusovka and Stary Karavan, and to take under complete control as many as possible territories along the river of Seversky Donets. And when it happens, this will create the situation when the Ukrainians would be completely encircled or semi-encircled by Russians, with just the only way how to get additional supply and support. And this line goes from the settlement of Mayaki in the direction of the western part of the city of Liman. So the Russians are trying to tighten the news by moving through the flanks, but not through the city itself. So in coming days, very interesting updates we might receive from this area. As for the northern directions, during the previous 12 hours, we received a very important update published by the Group of Forces North. The Russians stated that as a result of clashes, the Group of Forces North managed to establish complete control over the settlement by the name of Pokrovka, and this map was provided by pro-Russian sources. So this is the end of the 15th, and this is the beginning of the 16th of February. We can see that the Russians during the previous days managed to semi-encircle the huge forest that is located around the settlement of Novodmitrievka. So as you can see, the Russians, it seems like the Russians took this forest in pincers. We're talking about these huge territories, and from this configuration of the front line, we believe that the next step and the next target for the Russians is to establish complete control over this forest. And later, this forest would be used by Russians as some, let's say, natural defense to move further in the direction of the settlement of Krasnopolye. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.